Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold Today Show. I'm JD Houvener, your host, and this is a live Q&A session. We're broadcasting across our Facebook platform, LinkedIn, as well as our YouTube. So I'm excited to be here with you, welcoming all business owners, entrepreneurs, inventors, of course, and anybody in the system. I'm excited to have you guys here. So I'm also going to be bringing on our co-host, Matt Kulseth, here in just a minute to help answer trademark questions. So please check out that legal notice. We've got a live session here. I'm a patent attorney. We got a trademark attorney coming on, but this is not legal advice for you, right? This is more general information, process-based, ways to get started, Q&A about your situation or even a hypothetical situation. But we don't want this to be a platform for you to perhaps, unknowingly share an invention, publicly disclose it too early. So please make sure not to do that. I'm going to put up our quick agenda to try to be organized today. I have got introduction, which we've done. I'm JD Houvener. I'm the owner here at Bold Patents Law Firm, and we're here every Wednesday doing a live broadcast from 9 a.m. to 9:30 Pacific time, and noon to 12:30 on the East Coast. So half hour, action-packed live Q&A. We're going to be taking those live questions as a priority, and the subject matter for today is going to be about patents, trademarks, and IP related to startups. And so I'm really excited to go with you on this journey. We've got a presentation set up. We're going to kind of go through that as best we can. It might take more than one session. And then at the end, we're going to try to answer a few oval questions and see if we can get to that. So without further ado, I'll bring on my co-host, Matt Kulseth. Been backstage here. I think he just took a bite of an apple.
Hey,
Get you there.
Hey, JD. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Really good. Sorry to catch you off guard.
No, that was good.
Good to have you. We're going to tee up some discussion about startups. I know you're heavily involved in startups. You're out in Minnesota. I mean, the whole community out there in Minneapolis. Obviously, it's a hub, much like my area up here in Seattle. So I'm really curious, kind of get your perspective on it, and we'll talk, of course, patents and trademarks too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a ton of startups. I would say half of our practice in terms of our trademark portfolio today is working with startups, right? Whether these are, first-time entrepreneurs, working with incubators, on the West Coast, East Coast, ever in between. Startups are a huge part of our trademark portfolio today. And there's a pretty big learning curve for a lot of these clients because this might be their first foray into owning their own business.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we offer clients is, not just trademark and patent expertise, but also just general best practices in order to start a business successfully. What are the correct order of operations in terms of, getting your LLC or your corporation documents, filing the partnership agreements, securing your domain names and social media. When do you file the trademark? Do you do that before or after? Lots of good questions.
Totally. Yeah, so I welcome anybody out there listening, no matter where you're at in this journey, even if you're just in the planning stages or you've got this vision of owning your own business someday, and you're asking questions, you're wondering things, you're worried, or maybe you're in the middle, right? Maybe you're seeking a funding round, your second or third A or B series, and you got some more sophisticated questions. Fire away. We'll see if we can handle them. I've got this presentation I want to go through. We'll spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes on it. Like I said, it's a little deep. We may not be able to get through it all, but my intention is to kind of be able to chart through this journey, right, that a startup goes through as it becomes a mature revenue generating business. So Matt, keep an eye on the comments for me as I present, in case any live questions come up.
Will do.
I'll share a screen here and we'll get into it. All right, here we go. And I will. I'll see if I do present mode. Are you seeing that all right?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So what we do with our elite clients, I personally work with them, our inventor clients. Once we put together and get their patents filed and their patent pending, I offer a business planning service where I begin discussing, okay, here's how your patent, your IP portfolio fits into where you're at in the business. And so we put together actual custom business plans based on where they're at and what their goals are for the next year and even 3 years out, based on what I call the innovation life cycle. And this is something I've come up with. It isn't set in stone. I mean, it's just general concepts, but it's my take on the different steps. It's a growth curve of a startup as they move forward, and you kind of see the colors, right? The purple or the pink rather, as at the beginning. Purple in terms of how the company progresses into forming and having a company set up, proof of concept. You got a provisional file, raising money in blue. Light is more like, hey, you're actually starting to sell, and then IP rights get granted, and the whole strategy comes together. And then you're more in the mature phase in the green, where you're starting to enforce things, and move into the red, which is more, either being acquired, which is, touchdown. That's a good thing. Licensing and selling products, or exiting, right? Exiting as a profitable company. So those are sort of the high level movements, and I'll go through them one at a time here to make sure we're kind of on the same page with the patent side first, and then if we can, do something similar on the trademark side. I didn't prepare a slide on that, but Matt, you're welcome to jump in a little bit. It takes probably a similar approach. On the patent side, it does start with the patent search. And getting a legal opinion is just, I'm on my soapbox almost every week talking about that. That's step one, making sure that is your invention something to where patents is going to be worthwhile, where patent is actually going to be the best option for you. And so deciding that, getting that legal opinion on whether patents is the right decision is step one. Okay. And if it is, then it's step two. And typically it's a provisional patent application for a startup. Provisionals take half as much work for us attorneys, and they're half as expensive. And it gives you that same patent pending priority date. Okay. So you get all the benefits of the filing for half the cost. And that speaks to a lot of bootstrapping startups. So a provisional is a great avenue to go down. But it does require you to follow it up with this step three, which is a non-provisional. Okay, the non-provisional is a formal application that will get examined by the USPTO patent examiner. Now you see these kind of weeks, 3-4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. There's a good chunk of time there. This takes a lot of effort to put together your application properly. Okay, but you can also see a much bigger time period here and a good range, right? Depending on the complexity, the type of invention, and whether you've elected to prioritize your patent application. 9 to 48 months, okay? And I kind of put the extremes in here. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. Typically a year to year and a half, sometimes 2 years is standard for this prosecution, where once you submit that application, there's a few back and forths with the examiner, negotiating, going through legal argument and amendments. And finally get the patent granted. And at that point, you have got the rights. You've got the ability to enforce your patent, take someone to court, threaten to do so, and of course, get the benefit of preventing anyone else in your jurisdiction from making, using, and selling patents. So that's the stage 6, and that could be how you stay for the rest of your 20 years of patent life. There's also the opportunity to go down this path of licensing or outright selling that asset on the other way to commercialize. Right? If your company isn't going to enforce and make and sell the product, you can definitely make money by licensing and selling. So, Matt, would you jump in real quickly on the trademark side? Does it follow a similar path? Anything else to point out?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does, 100%. What I would say is the trademark process very much mirrors your 7-step patent process as outlined here on this slide. The only difference would be the timelines, right? Typically, the trademark process is going to be about half the length of the patent process. So I'm just looking through the timelines here as you've laid them out. Our trademark search is typically 2 weeks versus a patent search 3 to 4. The application process itself, patent prosecution versus trademark prosecution, roughly half the time, but very much in the same vein in terms of search, application, negotiation with the USPTO, trademarks granted, registered, licensing, enforcement, etc.
Cool. Right on. Well, that's a good little background here as we move forward. And like I said, we're going to get as far as we can. Let's take this first one up. And as a startup, you could be at this phase, somebody listening could be in this innovation identification, right? And I think it's true that even if you're not going to go after something patentable, you have to be different and innovative if you're going to have a startup. I think it's sort of inherent in having a business, right? Something's got to be different about you, better, providing higher quality, getting it done quicker, more, completely higher touch, whatever it is your differentiation is. That's what I mean by innovation identification. And so just taking this in turn, this is when the owner, right, the founder of the company, may not even be an actual LLC or a C Corp yet. It's just in its infancy. You got to work with attorneys. And I say oftentimes you can and should work with patent counsel to sort of categorize what they might have in your solution, whatever you're going to be selling. You should have that question. Hey, is what I'm offering, I'm selling candy, right? I'm selling, tax services. I'm selling plants. Okay, just think about, is what I'm doing innovative? Do I think what I'm doing is different than what's being sold on the mainstream? And is that technology, is that product, is that process potentially patentable? Right? Just ask that question right out of the gate. And so if you do think that, hey, maybe what I'm selling, this is new. I've never seen this. It's cool. I hope to make a bunch of money doing this in my business. Then you can go seek a eligibility opinion, right? Is this plant? Is this way of conducting tax advice? Is this actual widget actually patentable? Right? Getting that opinion is important. Okay. Other professionals, I say, is to get in touch with a business consultant. They can help a lot with aligning your business strategy into the areas of innovation. And aligning whatever you're coming up with, however you're going to go to market. Is there a demand for it? Right, putting everything into place, kind of perspective in terms of timeline. Okay, and also links to trade secret and patenting. When it comes to innovations, sometimes you want to keep things in house. Okay, you don't necessarily want to share it or publish it. Let's maybe pick an example of selling watches. Okay, you got a brand new watch, and a certain type of watch that you want to try to sell, and you figured out a way to, let's say, solder two types of metals together. And before you had to use, a specialized tool, but you found a way to do it using a simple hammer. Okay, really example. Okay, and where it can be done very cheaply and efficiently using your specific method, using a certain kind of, chisel and a mechanical hammer. Right, instead of having to use this high tech, melter, you're able to do it very cheaply. Now the question is, that process may be patentable, right? That method of using a hammer with that specific chisel, because no one's ever done it that way with those tools. But the end product, right, that watch, the internal mechanism, the way you're combining those two types of metals, that likely won't be reverse engineerable. No one will know, perhaps, that you used a much simpler, more efficient, more optimized way to join those metals by the end product. Even if one of your competitors, right, that knows how to combine those metals, bought your watch, took it apart, and saw that solder, they would probably assume that they're using what they're using, which is the expensive, process of this electromelter, right, whatever it is. So that's a trade secret, right? A trade secret method to making that watch that you probably wouldn't want to seek patent protection for. You want to keep that as a trade secret within your jewelry shop or within your, your watch maker. Wheelhouse. So it's an interesting example. I just came up with that on the fly. Matt, would you have any input on very starting that innovation identification phase in terms of trademarks? Anything to add here?
Yeah, I can certainly add something, and I love your example of the watchmaker. JD, you don't know this about me, but that is one of my favorite hobbies is watchmaking.
Are you serious? I didn't know that. That's insane.
It's a random hobby. I have lots of random hobbies, but watchmaking is like one of my favorite things to do.
That is cool. So, well, maybe I wasn't too far off on my wild example. Maybe
no.
Okay.
It's a very random example, but it's a very random hobby. But so in terms of identifying, innovation in terms of a trademark, right? We're typically asking, clients to find names that are highly suggestive of the product or the service that they're offering, right? An innovative trademark is something, at least in my perspective, we can register with the United States Patent Trademark Office. And that means that it has to be unique, or as you would say in the patent world, novel. It has to be non-descriptive. It can't describe the product or the service. So typically it means that it's going to be highly suggestive of the product or the service. So I think I'll leave it there and kick it back to you, JD.
Perfect. Yeah. So at this stage, it's totally, you're kind of just, coming up with how you're different. And as you said, suggestive. You're not going to want to call it. If you're going to go to market with this watch, you're not going to want to call it, just plain watch, right? Just describing, circular time telling, whatever it is. They'll be really descriptive, right? A suggestive would be taking it to one other step. Maybe you can come up with something, Matt. What would be a suggestive mark for a watch brand? Just off the cuff. Do you have anything?
Oh, a suggestive trademark for a watch brand would be, let's see. Oh man, yeah, I haven't had my Wheaties this morning.
Yeah, this is good.
So I don't know. There's that new
TikTok. Would that be TikTok, or is that more descriptive? TikTok watches.
TikTok would be very suggestive of a watch, right? There's that new Amazon show Wheel of Time. That would be a suggestive name for a watch brand.
There we go.
Yeah, like you're very much on to what we're looking for in terms of a trademark is just maybe finding a feature of a watch. There's different parts to a watch. There's a canyon, pinion. There's there's the click. There's a whole bunch of different aspects to watches, and you might name your brand after a piece of that watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could call it Crown, right? There's a whole bunch of things that people would do.
I like Crown. Okay. Very good. Okay, innovation assessment. So this is sort of step 2, okay, and this overarching process. And we may just get to 3 steps here. We'll go into 2 here. This is where you're kind of assessing the alignment with your R&D. And of course, this could be just you, right, as the founder. But as I mentioned before, this weighing trade secrets versus what to move forward with patents. And don't forget that when you try to go for a patent, part of the deal is you have to share with the whole country, the whole world, honestly, what you've come up with. And so really making sure you understand the difference between keeping that in-house as a trade secret, right? Something that you might think it's not reverse engineerable. Think of that, joining of metals with the mechanical hammer, or pursuing a patent protection. And so to kind of, as you're developing that, your actual watch, sticking with this watch, making analogy, other services at this point, at this stage 2, where you've got the watch built, you're kind of working on the next version, something you might want to go to market with. You can definitely work with attorneys. And I think it's important to talk about a business attorney, different than a patent attorney. A business attorney is one that's familiar with contracts, right? State-specific contracts, forming companies, advising startups on confidentiality. And the number one document we talk about and recommending to our inventors is getting a non-disclosure agreement, also called a confidentiality agreement. If they work with anyone else, even individuals, maybe a developer you're going to bring in and show, and hey, maybe help me through this R&D. I can't figure out how to get the canyon pinion, to work with this actual device, or I can't quite get the shell to fit. How do we get this to swivel the right way? And you get someone's opinion. Well, before you go down that path, get them to sign a contract, an NDA. And you want to have that done, not just one grab off of online on Google and maybe unenforceable. You want to make sure you work with a business attorney licensed in your state. So it's one of my favorite referrals to make at this point. So business planning is sort of step 3. Documenting companies. You've heard a lot of this stuff, right? Business plan. There's lots of different formats for putting a business plan together. But they all kind of have the same pieces, right? What's your mission? What's your vision, objective, marketing plan? How are you going to compete with others in the market? Then how are you going to make money? How are you actually going to do it? How are you going to make those watches? And then potentially how are you going to raise money if you're trying to grow, and basically find a way to scale. How are you going to accomplish that? And it's a living document. Right? Any business plan changes, right? It should be updated periodically as your plans change, as reality hits. And patents can be part of building that plan, right? Patents and trademarks, certainly. I know I've only got patents on this page, but IP, patents and trademarks are a great way to leverage and to have assets. Even if they're pending assets, you've got that filing done, that line in the sand showing you're serious, and you've got concrete ways that you're differentiating. It can be an excellent way to bring in co-founders, to bring in employees, and definitely get the attention of investors. And it definitely is a way that banks, sophisticated investors, SBA loans and grants, they will think highly of a business owner, certainly even a startup that's invested into intellectual property. And certainly if they've gotten the opinion, and if they're working with a professional attorney to acquire those assets. So again, business consulting and advising is important. Trademark attorney, I would definitely add to that list. I've really been blown away with the SBA, the Small Business Association. They've done a lot. And specifically, they have what they call development centers, where they offer great advising and coaching for startups. Matt, anything to add on kind of the business planning phase of this?
No, I would just reiterate what you said about the SBA. I mean, that is typically one of the first recommendations I make to clients or prospective clients who are just entering the startup phase, right? Let's talk business plan. Do you have a business plan? You not know what a business plan is, and that's fine. Like let's talk about what a business plan is and isn't. And the SBA is a great resource, especially for creating those business plans, potentially getting a loan. SBA can help with that a lot. But yeah, no, in terms of the business development cycle, I think it's important also to have a mentor if you're new to business. Look to somebody who you admire that's had some success in private industry, and ask them to be a mentor to you, or be on your board, right? Of your startup. That's a pretty common thing as well. For
sure. I mean, Matt, you've got I think, several businesses, right? I know you've got you've got Tiger Tail, right?
Yes.
You want to speak into that a little bit? We got some time here. I mean, what was your journey like? And how did you kind of frame it? Did you lean on IP as at least one part of a way to kind of focus and to say, and then hold on to that and help you kind of stay centered as you grew?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what JD's referring to is that I have a business partner and we own a dog leash collar manufacturing business. So we manufacture high-end leashes here in the United States, which is a fairly unique thing. Most products are made overseas these days, especially in the dog industry. But really what it started at from a business development standpoint was recognizing that there was this need in the marketplace for a high-end American-made, lifetime guaranteed, Patagonia-esque product. And we felt like that wasn't being fulfilled by the marketplace. And then it, became, what are we going to call this thing? All right, so we have a brand for it. We have a brand for the business, which is called Tiger Tail. We have branding and trademark registrations for each of the major lines under that product: Urban Nomad, Leatherish, Wild Grip, all these different product lines underneath are registered trademarks as well. And then it became, all right, we have these names, we have this idea for the brand, we know what we want it to do, the need that needs to fit in the marketplace. What products are we going to use to manufacture it, right? We want best-in-class American-made products. Let's go find those. Let's combine them in unique features. And then once we had a product that we really felt great about and we knew was unique, at that point, it was time to apply for a patent registration, right? And so that's where I became a client of the firm and worked with Chris, one of the patent attorneys at Bold, to register for a design patent to protect the actual kind of layout and design of one of our higher selling leashes. So
cool. Awesome.
There's a whole process that goes into it, right? Partnership agreements, but the business plan and having a board of folks who are in this marketplace was really important for us to identify, was this a viable product and was now the right time to be doing it?
Yeah, right on. And I want to just kind of go back on it because it's important kind of early stage discussion, right? We just went over the first three of perhaps what I'm calling 20 steps. And you mentioned that, that innovation stage where you're identifying a problem. Maybe that's how you start. You're a dog owner. You have struggled with finding high quality leashes. You're like, dang it, I'm going to solve this problem myself. And you want a very high quality, locally sourced, potentially a high quality material leash. And that's sort of that's your innovation. That's how you're different.
Correct.
And it sounds like you pretty quickly needed to kind of lock into a brand. It seems it was pretty quick. And I given your background, that makes sense, but you gravitated toward that and you found your mark, right? Is that how it went?
Yep, I basically, I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I had the name Tiger Tail in a dream. And actually, I'm serious. It was weird. Like, I had this leash and it was called Tiger Tail, and it had these like stripes on it that were grippy. And we ended up not being able to develop that particular leash at this point based on manufacturing abilities at present. But yeah, it started with the name, and then it kind of just evolved into this whole brand identity throughout the course of the next 6 months when we were, coming up with the brand and doing some product innovation and prototyping. And, having that, you mentioned having a business plan, right? And having that being a living document, so important, especially for potential investors. So we're 2 years into this business now. We've had more success than we ever expected to have, selling on e-commerce sites like Amazon, our own website, Target.com, Walmart.com. And, at this point, we're having investors come to us asking to, put a couple $100,000 into the business and take it to the next level. And, having that, being able to have those non-disclosure agreement in place, right, with these potential third parties, have these discussions, be able to share our living document of our business plan and our financial documents, super important, right? Yeah. So having your ducks in a row, being sophisticated, or at least knowing someone who's fairly sophisticated in business, very important to, running and operating and growing a business.
Very cool. I know I didn't expect an interview about Tiger Tail, but I think we're leaning into it here. I mean, do you mind answering a couple more questions?
Sure.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned you have a co-founder, you have a partner, right?
Correct. Yep.
Walk me through that. I mean, did you sit down pretty early on and set up something in writing with this partner, or is it something you developed over time? And how important is that?
Yep, very, very important. So, one, I'm fortunate in the sense that my business partner is one of my best friends, and we've been friends for the last 20 years, basically. So there's a lot of inherent trust in that relationship. Second, I have a lot of experience, obviously, working with startups in helping clients bring products to market. But I have no marketing experience when it comes to actually the nuts and bolts of, putting products on Amazon and, optimizing search engine optimization. I mean, any of that kind of thing, that's not my field of expertise. I can talk at high level about it, but the nuts and bolts, can't do it. I recognize that if I wanted to bring this product to market and be a brand owner, and be more in line with what my clients are doing, to have that experience to be able to better serve their needs, I needed somebody with that actual expertise. And that was my business partner, Shane. That's all his small firm does, is help clients bring products to market on, e-commerce platforms like Amazon. So he was a natural fit. I said, I have the idea. I'll put up the startup capital for it. We'll warehouse out of my pole barn on our property, and that's kind of where we'll do the operations. We'll hire someone to do the packing, fulfillment, all that sort of thing. But you'll run the day-to-day operations in terms of the marketing, inventory management, that sort of thing. So we kind of divided and conquered in terms of what our expertise was. But having that, initial concept of, this is what we want to do, this is how we would divide it. And then, even though I'm an attorney, I still go to my business attorney when it comes to drafting the partnership agreements and things like that, right? There's ethical reasons for that, but also I'm not a business attorney. I'm a trademark attorney. And so I want to go find and seek out the expert who can help, best protect my interest and my business partner's interest.
Right on. Thanks, Matt. We have one question here, live question from Flavio. Oh, I see the poop emoji. Okay. I had a dream of not picking up the dog poop. Okay. A formula spray, FDA approved, of course, foams around the dog poop and it biodegrades together. It becomes grass. Hey, that sounds cool to me.
I love it. I love it. I mean, you could sell a ton of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
send me an email, Flavio. I want to hear more about that. This, foam and how this would actually work. Right on. So yes, and just to follow up with that real quickly, if you want to get a hold of me, here's my info, and I'll put Matt's in there as well. Matt, you have something to say? I mean, you're a dog owner, you're in this business, in this industry. Anything to add that to follow up with Flavio?
It's for those interested in getting into the pet industry business, it is a great industry to be in. People love their dogs, that they love their cats. They're willing to pay a premium for premium products. it's a great vertical to be in. So, and
Absolutely.
we've had the good fortune, JD, I know you and I both at Bold have worked with plenty of clients in the pet industry, and many of them have
Absolutely.
had tremendous success.
Yes, you bet. Well, we're at the end of our show, unfortunately, Matt. So one thing I wrote down is I would love to have Shane on the show. I would love to have a
Yes,
focus about products on Amazon, on e-commerce.
you
And
would love to meet Shane. I think
okay,
our clients would love to meet Shane. He is dynamic. He is a wealth of information. And it's quite frankly a service that many, many, many of our clients need support in. So yeah, I would love to have Shane on.
cool. Let's plan on it. Get a hold of him,
Okay.
see if he's up. Maybe we can catch him first week of January. See
Yeah.
him up. Let's get to the holidays, but it'd be great. And thank you, everyone, for all those live questions. Flavio, good to hear from you. Saeed as well. And I love those hearts and thumbs up. So we're here every Wednesday. We're going to do it next Wednesday. Might be the last one for the year. So if you didn't catch us this week, watch us next week. All right, we'll be here. But for Matt, myself, and Bold, have a great day, everybody. Go big, go bold.